So we'll just do them as you go. We get your 3 in. Okay, what you're confused about is I said that reverse causality was not true. In other words, we were not really healing people 10 years in the past. That's a silly idea. We don't heal people who are already out of the hospital, 10 years ago. And that was the big thing that made this such a crazy experiment. People did it, and they constantly were seeing that they were affecting things in the past. My point was that that's not so. We're not affecting anything in the past. What we're changing is the data that described that past event. Okay? That's what we were changing. We didn't heal anybody in the past. So that's what was fake or wrong about that. It was the wrong interpretation of what was going on. The interpretation was, okay, here are these hospital records, 10 years old, and we were able to make them healthier and get out of the hospital sooner. We actually affected the health of these people 10 years after they get out of the hospital. Doesn't compute, does it? Doesn't really make any sense. Well, it doesn't make any sense. But that's what the data says, if you believe that reality is objective. If you believe reality is objective, then obviously what the data says has to be what happened. And you just changed what happened. See, not right. You didn't change what happened. The data doesn't have to describe what happened. That's only if you believe it's an objective reality and not a probabilistic reality. It's not. Now, you approach an objective reality on those cases where the consistency of the history and the rule set are real tight. All the data's there. Okay? Now it's like it's subjective reality. That's where the people actually read those charts and said they knew exactly what the hospital stay averages were on all of them. Now you can't change it, you see, because that's tight. Before it wasn't tight. It was kind of loose. It was still in the future. Nobody knew. Within that uncertainty, you can modify intent within the natural uncertainty of the problem. So that's how that works. We're doing the same thing here. We're looking at somebody's health. Now, that health body, that person can heal, can get worse, can do all sorts of things. That's in the future. We can modify the probability of them getting healthier, of getting better, of getting rid of that problem by our focused intent, just like we could use our focused intent to change what the average hospital stay was. So they're completely consistent. That's the, okay, question 2.
The other thing was just about love. It seems to me that, there's I think that there's a universal need or universal desire for people to be loved and to have love and gravitate towards that. So it seems that in this model, the paradigm of the great consciousness, that love is sort of a planet or sort of a place unto itself, a separate place. How does it fit into the whole thing?
Love isn't a place. Love is the result of lowering your entropy. A low entropy consciousness is love. So you, as you grow up, decrease your entropy, evolve, increase the quality of your consciousness, spiritual growth, all that makes you as consciousness closer to being love. Not necessarily acting loving. Of course, if you be love, you act love too, but this is being love. So love, you're right, it's kind of a universal imperative, if you will. Why is it that love is something we want? Well, we're designed to come here and grow and evolve. That's our point. That's why we're here. Of course, we come with a kind of a push at our back toward love. That's why we're here. Now, we don't have to. We have free will. We can go the other way if we want. Otherwise, free will wouldn't be free will. So, yes, I agree with you. Love is one of those things that we kind of naturally want, desire, want to find somehow. And our ego and our fear keeps us from doing it. So, yeah, I would agree. Love is it's the goal. It's what you're working toward. It's not a place or a thing. It's a goal to become. Okay, and your third question.
Oh, thank you. This one's kind of anticlimactic. When did the paradigm shift, or I know you went over it, but I wasn't real clear. Was it 1993, or when it was discovered that this that all of this was kind of converted to digital reality as opposed to and what was it before what we're studying here, what we're learning today?
Paradigm in physics?
Yeah,
the paradigm in physics isn't a done deal yet. There's like different groups. There are those groups of physicists who say it's obvious reality is digital and virtual, and then there's a larger group of physicists. Obviously, this is the traditional group because this is where you came from. The largest group is always where you've been, not where you're going. Where you're going tends to grow, and where you've been tends to shrink. But at this point, where you've been is the bigger group, and they say the larger reality is objective. It's just objective. That's why they can't understand these reverse causality experiments. They don't make any sense. You see, they don't know how that could happen. It's just an anomaly. It's a scientific anomaly. They have no idea why that should happen. They have no idea why C ought to be constant. They have no idea why particles ought to be probability distributions, because those things don't happen in objective reality. In objective reality, you're either particle or you're not. You can't be just a particle sometimes, a wave sometimes. That doesn't work in an objective reality. So there's lots of things about the objective reality assumption that just doesn't work. For instance, objective reality. Where did this universe come from? It came from a Big Bang. A physical Big Bang, of course, not a digital Big Bang. Well, what was before the Big Bang? What caused the Big Bang to happen? How did all that energy get wadded up in that little ball so that it could do its Big Bang? No answer. It just started with a Big Bang, and then we got the universe, da-da-da-da-da. So basically, when you use the argument that reality is objective, you say that this universe popped out of nothing. That sounds like mysticism to me. You see, there's lots of problems. There's lots of philosophical problems with this reality being objective. But yet, almost all scientists all over the world will tell you this is objective reality, and the scientific method is the golden rule, and it works, and so on. Slowly, it's moving the other way. I don't think the paradigm has shifted yet, but I think it's moving that way. You know, people resist change. There's huge momentum in any organization, and scientists who are supposed to be very open-minded and only look at the facts, of course, that's baloney. Scientists are human beings like anybody else. They've got plenty of ego, plenty of investment in their careers and the things they've studied, and for them to think that it's all really wrong and they need to start over, that's a hard thing to do. So, you know, it's slow. So it hasn't changed yet, but it's been chugging along for quite a while, and it's gaining ground. So I think we're, all the time, every year we're getting a little closer to more and more people seeing the bigger picture. It just makes better sense. You know, it's got a good argument. The argument is it's better physics. So it hadn't happened yet, but it's on its way. All right, we have more questions. Yeah, just sometimes you have to talk into it for a minute or two before it starts up.
Tom, this is interesting. On the 6 and 7 box experiment, I reversed them. So for 7, I got 6, and for 6, I got 7. Does that particularly mean anything?
No, not particularly, but those kinds of things happen a lot. Like I say, some people always get right and left wrong. No matter how hard they try to specify orientation, they will always get right and left wrong. It's happened before. We've had this happen several times, that people get things in the wrong order. We had people who got, in California, we had people that got every one of the diagnosing things right, except they got them in the wrong order. You see, they got number 3, when they were supposed to be doing number 2, and so on. They were all out of order, but they got them all right. So that happens a lot. Why is that? I don't know particularly why you would do that, what the connection is or how that works, but I do know that those kinds of things do happen. It could be that the larger system is just trying to play with you a little bit. They're just saying, things aren't always straightforward, and that's true for everybody. You have to learn that this is not a button-down thing. You live in a probabilistic reality. When you reach in and you make that measurement, you can get some squirrely stuff. That's why I say we live in a probabilistic reality, and the anomalous events happen. That was an anomalous event. Why would you get those turned around? I don't know. Strange things like that happen all the time. They happen to me all the time. I had the strange experience last night of being locked in my hotel room and couldn't get out. For a time, the doorknob wouldn't work.
Are you staying at the Hotel California?
No, but that's just odd. And I called up the lady and I said, the knob and the deadbolt and all that stuff, it doesn't work. And I said, it's not the deadbolt. I can turn that and I can hear it clunk. I said, it just doesn't work. And she says, you can't get in? I said, no, I can't get out. Silence on the other end of the phone, We've never had that happen before. I don't know. Things like that seem to happen.